The rain fell hard on the shattered plains of Urn 5, soaking through Tarek's boots as he ran for his life. Mud splashed under each step, and the low roar of something monstrous echoed behind him. He had been a simple salvager. Land on the planet, scan the old wrecks, grab what tech he could, and get out. That was the plan. That was before the Giantess appeared. 3 meters tall, at least. Her skin was a smooth silver blue like metal under moonlight. Tarek only saw her for a moment through the mist, crouching over a broken machine, gnawing on something red. He didn't wait to check if it was meat or metal. The blood dripping from her jaw said enough. She looked up, and their eyes met hers, wide and glowing, his filled with panic. Now he sprinted through the old war zone, dodging craters and rusted beams. Ancient battle machines lay scattered like bones of extinct giants. Something hissed nearby. Tarek turned his head. Nothing, just the fog. But then a heavy thud behind him, another and another. Getting closer. He ducked into a rusted wreck, heart pounding, holding his breath. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then ... her voice. I saw you. Deep, melodic, almost gentle. But her. Sighs, the blood, no way she wasn't a flesh eater. Maybe she liked her prey scared. Maybe she was just playing with him. Tarek didn't move. His small body pressed into a gap between the walls. His hand slipped to his belt, where he kept a small pulse knife. It wouldn't do much, but it made him feel less helpless. Metal groaned outside. Then a hand huge, with long, strong fingers, ripped the wreck open like paper. Tarek's eyes met hers again. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't angry either. She looked curious. He lunged with the knife. She caught his wrist with lightning speed. Her grip was firm, but not crushing. He kicked, tried to scream, but she only looked at him, head tilted. You're small, she said. You're huge, he gasped. She blinked. You are afraid. Of course I am. You're eating things. I was eating fungus, she said simply, pointing at the red goo on her lips. It grows inside the machines, full of minerals. Tarek stared, confused. It looked like blood, she shrugged. It tastes like rust and sadness. That was not the answer he expected. She wasn't killing him. She wasn't attacking. In fact, she slowly released his arm. I'm not food, he said. No, she replied, but you chased me. I followed you. Big difference. He didn't know what to say. She crouched in front of him now, her size even more intimidating up close. She wore armor made of scrap metal and old banners, stitched together with vines. Her long white hair was braided with feathers. What are you? He asked, more softly now. I am Visha, one of the last of the Iron Kin. Iron Kin? Tarek's eyes widened. That's impossible. You were wiped out in the war. We were not wiped, she said. We hid. We waited. Watched. He took a shaky breath. Why now? Vesha looked up at the sky, where the distant crackle of thunder rumbled. The machines are waking. The ones buried beneath. If they rise again, all flesh will burn. Tarek didn't like the sound of that. Are you saying another war is coming? Worse, she whispered, a purge. Something massive shifted beneath them. The ground rumbled faintly. Tarek felt it too. A vibration in the earth like something was breathing below. Vesha stood tall, her eyes narrowing. They're stirring already, she said. But why? Tarek asked. The machines were dead. This planet was dead. She turned and pointed. To the sky. You came. Others will follow. They smell the tech, the old power. This place was never dead, little human. Just sleeping. Tarek's head spun. This was too much. He had come here for parts, not prophesize. But her words, her calm voice, it chilled him more than her strength ever could. "What do you want from me? You're small, but fast. You know how to move through wrecks. I need your help." He hesitated. "Help with what?" She leaned closer, waking the Guardian. "The only one who can stop the purge." "Why me? You're not like the others. You didn't shoot, you ran. That's better than blind violence." Tarek looked down at his hands. His knees still shook. He didn't feel like any kind of hero. "If I say no, I'll walk away," she said. "But the purge won't. Not for you, not for anyone." Thunder rolled again. Louder now. He stood slowly. His heart still beat like a drum. He glanced around at the twisted field of war metal and broken bones of old machines. Maybe she was right. Maybe running was no longer an option. He nodded once. "All right. Let's find your Guardian." Tarek walked beside Visha, his eyes scanning the horizon of broken war machines and collapsed bunkers. The storm had passed, but the sky remained gray, heavy with old clouds. The planet seemed to hold its breath. Every step echoed like a whisper. From the past, he glanced up at her. She moved with quiet power. Her armor clinked softly, made from scraps of ancient tech and battle banners worn with age. Even in stillness, she looked ready for war. "Where is this Guardian?" Tarek asked, trying not to sound nervous. "Buried in the cradle of stone," she said. "Far east, beyond the crater fields." "That's a death zone," he said. "Radiation. Sinkholes, leftover drones. No one goes there." "Exactly," she replied. "That's why it was hidden there." Tarek sighed. "Of course it is." They climbed over a jagged piece of a fallen warbot 20 meters tall, now rusted and broken. Like a fallen god. Vesha touched the machine's surface as they passed. "This one was called Varan 77, she said softly. "I fought beside it during the last Skyfall." "You fought beside it?" Tarek blinked. "I thought Iron Kin were enemies of the machines." "We were allies first," she said. "Then the machines chose logic over life." Tarek didn't understand it all, but he stayed quiet. He didn't want to interrupt her memories as they moved deeper into the ruins. They passed strange formations, twisted towers made of fused metal and bone. Some pulsed faintly, like something was still alive inside. Tarek stayed close to Vesha. Suddenly, a high-pitched chirp echoed from above. Vesha raised her arm fast. A red beam fired from the sky and hit her shoulder plate, bouncing off with a flash. She growled and pushed Tarek behind a slab of broken armor. "Scout drone," she said. "It saw us," Tarek peeked out. A small sphere hovered above, blinking with red lights. Before he could move, Vesha grabbed a piece of rebar, threw it like a spear, and struck the drone. Sparks exploded and it crashed into the dirt. "Was that machine from the old war?" he asked. "No," she said, eyes darkening. "That one is new." Tarek froze. "You mean someone else is here?" Vesha nodded. "Scavenger ships, raiders, hunters. Some seek tech, others flesh." Tarek shivered. "Do they know about the Guardian?" "Some suspect," she said. "That's why we must move fast." They continued through the wasteland, the silence now tense. Every broken structure looked like it could hide enemies. Every shadow felt like it watched. After hours of walking, they reached a narrow path between two collapsed battleships. Vesha stopped, eyes scanning the distance. "We're close," she said. Tarek looked around. "I don't see anything." She pointed at the ground. "Beneath us. The cradle is hidden underground." "Great," Tarek muttered. "How do we get down there?" Vesha stepped forward and pressed her hand against a slab of smooth stone half buried in the dirt. Her fingers glowed faintly. A low hum vibrated. Through the air, and a small section of earth opened like a mouth. Tarek leaned over and saw a stairway made of glowing blue stone. Cold air drifted up. "After you," he said. She smirked and descended first. Tarek followed, his pulse rising. The walls were covered in strange symbols, swirls, stars, and shapes that shifted as they walked past. The tunnel led to a wide chamber. In the center stood a massive structure, half machine, half statue. It looked like a sleeping warrior made of stone and light. "The Guardian," Vesha said. Trek single quotes as mouth opened. "That thing is a person?" "It is a sentinel," she explained. "Built with ironkin blood and human will. Long ago, before betrayal." He stepped forward slowly. "How do we wake it?" Vesha opened her hand. Inside it lay a small orb, dark and pulsing faintly. "With this." Tarek stared at the orb. "What is that?" "My core." His eyes widened. "Your what?" "Each ironkin has one. It links us to our guardian. I have carried mine for centuries, hidden, protected. You're going to give it up?" "Yes," she said, her voice soft. "But once I do, I may not remain as I am." Tarek looked at her face. For the first time, she looked unsure. "You'll change?" She nodded. "Or fade." Tarek reached out and touched her arm. "Are you sure?" She looked at him with eyes like stars. "There is no other choice." She stepped forward, held the orb to the Guardian's chest, and pressed it in. Nothing happened. Then the room began to shake. Dot lights flared. Symbols glowed. The Guardian stirred, but far above, outside the cradle, red eyes blinked to life. They had been watched. Asterisk. The chamber shook like the heart of a waking mountain. Tarek stumbled, falling to one knee as the ground pulsed with deep energy. Above him, the Guardian opened its eyes, two glowing slits of white fire. Its chest expanded slowly, like it was taking a breath after 1,000 years of silence. Vesha stood still, arms slightly raised as if bracing herself. Her armor flickered, and a wave of light rippled from her core where the orb had once glowed. Now it was gone, merged with the Guardian. She looked paler. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was softer than before. "It has begun." Tarek watched as the Guardian's arms unfolded. Metal groaned, dust crumbled. The massive machine knight stood taller than anything he had ever seen underground. It didn't roar. It didn't speak. It simply turned to face them and nodded. "Is it alive?" Tarek whispered. "It is aware," Vesha replied. "It was built to awaken only when the world needed defending again." Tarek opened his mouth to ask more, but a sharp whine cut through the air, a piercing mechanical scream. He froze. Vesha spun toward the stairwell. "They followed us." Tarek's stomach dropped. "The raiders?" "No," she said. "Worse, the cleaners." He had heard rumors. In the outer colonies, silent machines that hunted trespassers on forgotten worlds. Not for tech, not for gain, just for one reason: containment. Destruction. Erasure. "Run?" he asked. "Fight," she answered. Before he could argue, a shadow dropped into the chamber, tall, spider-like, with blade limbs and a single glowing sensor. It landed between them and the stairs. The Guardian moved first. It didn't hesitate. One massive hand swung down, crushing the cleaner into shards with a sound like thunder. But more fell from above, 3, 5, then 10, swarming like insects. With razor arms, Tarek ducked behind a column, drawing his pulse knife again. It buzzed to life, weak but sharp. Vesha leapt toward the nearest cleaner, grabbing its leg and swinging it like a club into another. Her movements were slower now, still powerful, but it was clear the loss of her core had weakened her. The Guardian fought like a storm, every blow destroying machines, shaking the walls, but even it couldn't block every attack. One blade sliced through its leg joint. Another struck at side. Tarek saw a cleaner heading for Vesha's blind spot. Without thinking, he ran. He screamed and drove the pulse knife into the creature's eye just before it could strike her. The machine shrieked and flailed, throwing Tarek to the floor, but it was enough. Vesha twisted and slammed her fist into the cleaner's head, smashing it flat. She turned to Tarek. Her eyes widened. "You fought for me." "Yeah," he said, panting. "Don't get used to it." Something changed in her expression. Not surprise, not pride. Something gentler. A spark of warmth. "We must reach the surface," she said. "The Guardian cannot follow in this form, but it will hold them off." "Wait," Tarek said. "You're leaving it behind?" "It was built to buy time, not to escape." Tarek looked back. The Guardian stood firm, blades embedded in its frame, but still fighting. He hated this. He hated running. But she was right. If they stayed, they'd die here. They reached the stairwell. Sprinting up while behind them, the chamber shook harder. As they climbed out, the entrance collapsed. Stone and metal sealed the Guardian inside, cutting off the light. Tarek fell onto the ground, coughing. The surface sky looked the same gray, quiet, but now it felt worse. Like the calm before a storm. "Where do we go now?" he asked. Vesha looked to the horizon, to the tower. "What tower?" She pointed toward a jagged line far in the distance. "The beacon spire. It can send a signal across this system. If we reach it, we can warn the others, call for help, or draw the enemy out. Do you think anyone will answer?" Vesha's lips curled into something like a sad smile. "No, but we must try." Tarek stood up slowly. "You're weaker." "I am," she admitted, "but I can still fight." He looked at her, truly looked. Even drained, she stood tall. And he no longer saw her as a monster. She wasn't here to eat him. She wasn't a beast. She was something else entirely. A protector, a warrior. He nodded. "All right, Giantess. Let's move." They began the long walk toward the tower, but far behind them, deep underground, another system came online. The cleaners were not just machines. They were connected to something ancient, something that had been watching long before the war, and now it was awake. The wind howled across the wastelands as Tarek and Vesha crossed the dead fields. Shattered bones of war machines rose like black teeth from the ground. The sky, though still gray, had begun to pulse with faint, reddish light like blood vessels in the clouds. They had walked for hours. Vesha moved slower than before. Her breath was steady but not strong. Her glowing tattoos had faded. Without her core, she was just flesh and memory now, still tall, still strong, but mortal. "Rest a moment," Tarek said, placing his hand on a large broken gear. She shook her head. "We don't have time." "You're burning out." "So are the stars, but they shine anyway." Tarek sighed. She was stubborn and poetic. A strange combination for a walking mountain. He turned toward the distant shape of the beacon spire. It was clearer now, rising like a jagged finger into the sky. Still far, maybe a day's walk, but no longer just a shape in the mist. Then he heard it, a low hum in the air. Like thunder, but too steady, too mechanical. Vesha stopped. Her eyes narrowed. "They're scanning." "Us?" "No, the Guardian." Tarek's stomach turned. "You said it was just meant to hold them off." "If they found it, they'll study it, learn its design, use it." "You're saying they could rebuild it?" "Worse," she said. "They could improve it." Tarek swallowed hard. "Then we have to destroy what's left." She looked at him. "There is no going back." "I know," he said, tightening the strap on his satchel. "But I didn't run from those things just to let them win." For the first time, her eyes softened. They pressed on as the sun sank behind the ash mountains. They reached a ruined settlement, half buried in dust, walls bent inward like something had crushed them. Tarek stepped carefully, scanning with his wristband. "Life signs," he whispered. Vesha raised a brow. "Where?" "Glow, faint, maybe survivors." She nodded once and followed him into a cracked building. Inside was a staircase leading underground. They climbed down slowly, weapons ready. The lower hall was dark and smelled like old oil. Then a voice whispered in the dark, "Don't shoot." A small light flickered on. A figure appeared, a young woman, thin and pale, with scars across her arms and a dirty cloak wrapped around her. Behind her were two children, huddled together. "Humans," Visha said with surprise. The woman stepped forward, eyes wide. Your Ironkin." Vesha didn't speak. Tarek stepped in. "She's with me. We're not here to hurt anyone." The woman hesitated, then nodded. "I'm Mira. We've been hiding for weeks." "From the cleaners?" Tarek asked. She nodded. "They sweep the fields. Anyone moving disappears." "Why didn't you leave?" he asked. "No ships. No signal. No one answers distress calls anymore." Tarek looked around. The children stared at Visha, wide-eyed and silent. "We're heading to the beacon spire," he said. "If we get there, maybe we can send a stronger signal, warn others, maybe even bring help." Mara's eyes lit up. You think there's still someone out there?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but we have to try." She looked toward the stairs. "Take the kids." "What?" Tarek blinked. "I can't keep moving." "But they deserve a chance. If you're really going to the tower, please." Tarek looked at Vesha. She said nothing, just gave him a short nod. He turned back to Mira. "All right, we'll take them." Mira hugged her children tightly, whispered something in their ears, then kissed their foreheads. Vesha led the way out of the ruins with the children walking between them. Tarek followed behind, scanning the horizon. Then a distant sound made. Him freeze, not a drone, not a cleaner. Footsteps. Heavy. Ones. Marching. They turned to see a massive figure moving across the horizon, but it wasn't the Guardian. It was darker, sleeker, and not alone. 3 more followed behind it. Each one bore pieces of the Guardian's armor. And something else. Cleaner tech. They copied it, Tarek whispered. They rebuilt the Guardian. "No," Vesha said, her voice grim. "They made something worse." The children clung to her leg, frightened. Tarek clenched his fists. "We need to get to that tower. Now." Vesha's jaw tightened. "Then we run." They ran through the ruins into the ash fields, heading toward the only hope left. Behind them, the new Titans rose, part Guardian, part Killer, and they were coming fast. Ash and dust flew behind them as they ran across the open field. The beacon spire now loomed closer, dark against the red-tinted sky. It was an ancient communication tower, long thought dead, its top torn open by time and storms. But if there was any place left that could send a signal into deep space, it was there. Tarek held one of the children's hands tightly. The other clung to Vesha's back, arms wrapped around her thick armor as she ran faster than any human could, even in her weakened state. He looked back. The new machines were gaining. 3 of them, huge, sleek, cold. They moved like shadows, wearing armor, quiet, smooth, and without pause. Their eyes glowed like burning holes, and the metal in their bodies gleamed with stolen parts. Each one had pieces of the old Guardian fused into its chest. "They're tracking us through the Guardian's core," Tarek said between gasps. "Your core?" Vesha didn't answer right away. Her face was tight, focused. "Yes," she finally said. "They want what I gave, and they know where it came from." Tarek glanced ahead. A steep ridge blocked the final stretch before the tower, a broken wall of rocks, sand, and wreckage. The only way forward was up. Vesha slowed slightly. Climb. I'll hold them back. Tarek stopped. No. You must get those children to the tower. And what about you? She looked down at him. I was never meant to survive this world, Tarek. I am the last echo of a broken war. But you are still part of what can be rebuilt. No, his voice shook. You saved me. You didn't eat me when I thought you would. You fought beside me. You trusted me. I'm not leaving you now. For a moment, her eyes glimmered. Then the ground trembled. One of the Titan machines crashed through a broken transport, raising a weapon arm covered in rotating blades. Tarek looked to the children. Climb, now. The kids nodded, scrambling up the ridge. Vesha turned to face the enemy, cracking her neck. All right then, human. Let's stand together. The first Titan lunged. Vesha met it head-on, slamming into it with a shoulder charge. The shockwave knocked dust into the sky. Metal groaned. Tarek flanked the creature, firing his small pulse gun at the exposed wires along its lower spine. Sparks flew, but it didn't stop. The Titan grabbed Vesha and threw her into a pile of wreckage. Vesha! Tarek shouted. She rose slowly, bleeding from her lip but still standing. Another Titan jumped into the fight, swinging its massive arm. Vesha dodged barely and grabbed the first machine by the leg. With a roar, she spun and slammed it into the second. Tarek ducked under a flying shard of debris and fired again. This time, the blast hit something critical. One of the Titans spasmed and fell, twitching. The other two paused. They studied him. Then, without warning, one of them turned toward the children. No, Tarek sprinted. He fired wildly, trying to draw its attention. The machine ignored him. Vesha saw it too. She ran, moving faster than before, even with the pain. She jumped between the children and the machine just as its bladed arm came down. The blade struck her back, slicing deep but not through. Her armor cracked. Blood hit the ground. She stayed standing. I am not done, she growled. Tarek climbed to the children, pulling them behind the last rock wall. The tower's base was just a head silent, ancient, forgotten. He slammed a button on his wrist. A small scanner flickered, then beeped. It still has power, he shouted. Vesha fought the last Titan alone now, each move slower, her body swaying. But she never stepped back. Tarek reached the base and found an old console, covered in dust and vines. He cleared it quickly, connected his wristband, and overrode the system. Come on, he whispered. A deep hum started. Lights blinked. Signal uplink. Initializing. Yes. A loud crash behind him. He turned. Vesha had fallen. To one knee, the Titan raised its blade for the final strike. Tarek grabbed the nearest tool, an old shock rod, and charged forward. Hey, over here! The Titan turned. Tarek swung the rod at its leg joint. The shock flared. The blade missed Vesha and hit the ground. She used the opening to drive a broken pipe into the machine's neck. It sparked, stumbled, and then collapsed. The ridge fell silent. Tarek dropped to the ground, chest heaving. Vesha lay on her side, barely breathing. He crawled to her, took her hand. You did it, she whispered. We did it. Above them, the beacon spire flickered to life. And far, far away, someone began to listen. The beacon spire blinked with steady light now. Its core systems had awakened after decades of sleep. Old wires carried the signal through the deep void, stretching beyond the edges of the planets. Atmosphere.Tarek stood near the console, watching the transmission feed. Status. Signal sent, waiting for reply. The words blinked in green, but no answer came yet. He turned around. Vesha lay beside the children, her armor cracked open, deep gashes along her side. Her breathing was shallow. The older child held her hand quietly while the younger one wiped her forehead. With a scrap of cloth, Tarek knelt next to her. "Hey, you're still with us." "I feel like a falling star," she whispered. "That doesn't sound good." "It's peaceful. At last." "No, not yet," he said, shaking his head. "You said this world would burn without someone to protect it." She smiled faintly. "You protected it." "I didn't do it alone." Her hand weakly grabbed his. "Don't let me close my eyes yet. Tell me, if anyone heard the signal." Tarek glanced at the screen again. Still nothing. Then, suddenly ping. The console lit up. Incoming message. Source unregistered vessel, human origin. His eyes widened. Someone answered. Vesha blinked, her breathing catching. "They heard it?" Tarek nodded, stunned. "Yes, they're coming. It's a human ship. Could be military or rescue, but it's real." Vesha closed her eyes for a moment, her chest rising and falling. Slowly. "Then, my time is well spent." "No," he said. "You're not dying. I won't let you." He opened his satchel and pulled out a small injector basic module from his salvaging kit. It wasn't enough to fix her fully, but it could slow the damage. He pressed it against her side and activated it. Her body jerked slightly as the gel spread into her wound. She gasped, then gritted her teeth. "That burns." "Good," Tarek said. "Means you're still alive." He stood and walked back to the console. A new message flashed. ETA. 90 minutes. They had time, but not much. Then, the ground trembled again. "No," Tarek whispered. "Not more." From the far edge of the horizon, shapes moved, 5 of them this time, taller than the last. "Heavier, sharper, titans," Vesha rasped. "Evolved again." Tarek clenched his fists. "They copied the Guardian. Then they copied you." She didn't answer. Her strength was fading again. He turned to the children. "We need to hide. There's no way to fight those." The kids nodded, frightened. Tarek helped them down into the base of the tower, where old supply rooms and bunkers were hidden beneath thick walls. He led them to a small chamber with emergency rations and sealed doors. "Stay here. Don't open this door unless it's me." The older child grabbed his hand. "You'll come back, right?" Tarek smiled. "I promise." He ran back up. Vesha was still on the ground, eyes open, barely conscious. He knelt beside her. "I know you can't fight, but I need your help. One more time." She blinked. "I need you to tell me what your people left behind in this tower. Anything, any weapon, any command system. Anything that might stop those things." Vesha coughed. "Below, control chamber." "Where?" "West wall. Look for the eye symbol." Tarek didn't waste a second. He ran to the west side of the tower. He brushed dust and debris away until he found it, an old iron kin symbol. A single eye with a flame behind it. He pressed it. A panel slid open. Inside was a tunnel, narrow and cold. He slid down it and found a round chamber glowing with dim blue light. Consoles lined the walls, and in the center stood a glass cylinder. Inside the cylinder floated a sphere similar to Vesha's core. A backup? No, not glowing. Not alive. Then he saw the control screen. Emergency defense activation available. I touched it. A warning appeared. Warning. Core fragment required for link. He stared, confused. Then he reached into his pocket. The pulse knife, the blade he had, stabbed into the first cleaner. The handle had absorbed something from that fight. He hadn't realized it until now, but it buzzed faintly, warm with leftover energy. He slammed it into the slot. The system paused, then unlocked, activating emergency defense beacon above him. The tower groaned. Outside, Massive beams of light shot up from the four corners of the spire. The sky cracked with energy. And from beneath the ground old weapons awoke. Across the plain. Turrets rose from buried bunkers. Cannons locked on. The new Titan stopped, sensing danger. The tower spoke in an ancient iron-kin voice. Protocol. World shield. Initiating purge. Then the sky lit up with fire. The beacon spire blazed with energy, sending light across the ash fields like a second sun. Turrets hidden for centuries now turned with perfect aim, targeting the 5 towering titans advancing from the horizon. The first shot came from the west, a beam of searing plasma. It struck the lead titan in the chest. The machine didn't scream. It didn't fall. It simply froze, its systems overwhelmed, and then it exploded in a fireball of silver sparks and scorched steel. Tarek stood at the top of the tower, watching with wide eyes. He had never seen weapons like this, not even in old war records. They weren't just defenses, they were final safeguards, built by minds who had known true extinction. Another blast lit up the field. A second Titan shattered. But the others adjusted. They moved faster now, breaking into a sprint. Their new designs, sleeker, smarter, and faster, let them dodge the slower beams. One jumped into the air, landing near the base of the tower. Tarek ran from the control room back to the entrance, just in time to see a massive claw slam into the tower wall. Stone and steel crumbled. He fired his pulse pistol, but the shots bounced off its armored head. The machine turned its single red eye toward him, cold, empty. Then a deep voice behind him shouted, "Down!" Tarek dropped flat. A giant metal pipe swung through the air, striking the Titan's face and cracking its sensor. It stumbled. Vesha. She was standing again, bloody, pale, barely upright, but still standing. She roared, lifting the pipe with both hands and smashing it down. Again, the Titan reeled back, trying to reset. Tarek jumped up, grabbed a second pipe from the rubble, and joined her. Together they beat the machine until its legs folded and it collapsed. Tarek leaned on the wreck, panting hard. "You shouldn't be standing," he said. "I shouldn't be alive," Vesha whispered. "But here we are." A second Titan tried to flank them, but the tower's top guns finally locked on. A flash of light, then nothing left but smoking metal. The final Titan paused. It seemed to look around as if realizing it was now alone. It turned and ran. Tarek stared in disbelief. "It's retreating." Vesha lowered the pipe. "It's not retreating. It's reporting. That one's not a soldier. It's a recorder." Tarek's face darkened. "Then we can't let it leave." He turned to the console and activated the tower's remaining beam cannons. They followed the Titans. Path and charged. The machine leapt a ridge too fast. The beams fired. The mountain exploded beneath its feet. It fell, and didn't rise again. The sky slowly dimmed. The guns powered down. Silence returned to the battlefield, real silence. Tarek collapsed beside Vesha on the cracked ground. His chest ached, arms bruised, fingers shaking. But he smiled. We lived. Vesha closed her eyes. For now. Footsteps approached from below. The children peeked out from the tower's doorway. Their faces lit up when they saw Tarek alive. He waved them over. "It's safe now." They ran to him, hugging him tightly. Vesha knelt slowly, letting the smaller child wrap his arms around her neck. "You saved us," the girl whispered. "No," Vesha said. "He did." Tarek gave a tired laugh. "No, we both did. Together." Then, a new sound filled the air, this one softer but unmistakable. Engines. They looked to the sky. A large human vessel broke through the cloud layer, its light scanning the surface. Dropships followed behind it. One of them circled down toward the tower and hovered above the field. A voice crackled through speakers. "This is the GSS Horizon. Responding to emergency beacon. Survivors, please signal." Tarek raised his wristband and tapped the flare. The light shot into the air. The ship adjusted and lowered a ramp. The children ran first, followed by Tarek. He turned, realizing Vesha wasn't behind him. She stood at the edge of the landing zone, watching the ship. "You coming?" he asked. She looked uncertain. "I'm not human," she said softly. "Neither is that ship's engine," he replied. "But it still runs." She laughed once weak, but genuine, and took a step forward. The children reached out for her. She walked with them, slow but steady, onto the ramp. As they lifted into the sky, the battlefield below shrank. The tower, still glowing, faded into the gray mist. Inside the dropship, a medic offered to treat Vesha's wounds. She nodded. Tarek slumped into a seat, eyes heavy, muscles burning. Vesha sat beside him. "Back there," he said, voice low. "When I first saw you, I thought you were going to eat me," she grinned. "I still might." He laughed so hard it made his ribs hurt. And somewhere, far above the ashes of war, a new story began.